First of all, I'd like to also acknowledge the indigenous owners of this land on which we speak. And this is a tradition in Australia which I've come to respect moving from the United States last year, that the indigenous presence on this land is acknowledged at the start of such events. We are very honored to have with us the Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Research and International, Professor Alan Lawson, with us to give some opening remarks. He has to rush off for another commitment, and so I'll do my more detailed introductions later. Professor Lawson is one of the most distinguished UQ executives who has been working to build bridges across the world for UQ, and he's going to share some thoughts about how this may perhaps link in with those initiatives. Thank you, Professor Lawson.
Thanks very much, Saleem. I hope you'll excuse the unusual tone of my voice, but I have once again succumbed to the common cold. The common cold is far too common for my liking. I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and I would also like to formally welcome you all on behalf of the University of Queensland. The University of Queensland is quite excited to be hosting an event like this, and I'm personally extremely pleased to be able to be here at the opening. Let me just explain to you why somebody with a background in post-colonial literature finds a symposium on rare earths particularly interesting, because I do. The work that I did over a period of 25 years in the field of post-colonial literatures and cultural history gave me an insight into the way in which colonial cultures actually work. All of the European colonies and most of the colonies of other parts of the world were essentially extractive economies. They were based on resource extraction, and the resources that were extracted from the great European and Asian colonies were sometimes mineral, they were sometimes agricultural, and they were on many occasions also human. And so we have some sense of that long history of the engagement of powerful nations with smaller nations, with the appetite of developed countries for the products of developing countries. I think the sensitivity to other cultures, and very particularly to other histories, is one that I see the mining industry becoming increasingly engaged with. And the other thing that somebody with a background in literary and cultural studies has is a sensitivity to the language. A couple of years ago, we would have referred to this as a rare earth mining symposium. Now we talk about a rare earth minerals symposium. That, I think, is a shift worth registering, because it focuses not on the physical activity, but on the goal. And the goal is the extraction of minerals from wherever they might be found, not simply in great big holes under the ground. But I think the real reason I've enjoyed over the last 15 years in my roles, various roles in the centre, if you like, of the university, is that
we're actually live streaming the event, so there's just feedback on that.
I'm used to feedback.
So you're being broadcast to the world.
Well, it sounded like the world was being broadcast to me. Thanks. Okay. But over the last 15 years, as a member of in one form or another of the executive of the University of Queensland, I've got to appreciate the diversity of work that we do at the university, and I'll talk about that in a very short moment. But I found my engagement with the minerals industry to be far more interesting than my engagement with most other industries. And I think it's because I get that same sense of the engagement across a very wide time period and a very wide spatial dimension. So the big minerals companies and the people involved in research into minerals have a sense of time and a sense of space that is lacking in many other industries whose needs are more local and more short-term. But as I said, for me as a member of the Central Executive of the University of Queensland, it's important for me to find as many opportunities as possible for the whole university to engage. And engaging around very large issues like the future of rare earths is one of those occasions, because this is not simply a job for the geologists or the metallurgists or even the comminution experts with whom I've had a great deal to do over the last year. It's a job for people who have a sense of history. It's a job for people who understand the economics. It's a job for people who understand the historical and personal and social dimensions in which this industry will or will not survive. And the social contract of mining has been one of the most interesting developments for me to watch over the last few years. But most importantly, I think, something like this allows us to bring together people from right across the University of Queensland to engage with people from right around the world in particularly important issues. That's why we get excited at the University of Queensland about the global challenges, about the Millennium Goals, because it does allow us to bring together the very considerable expertise that we've got all over the university. We actually get people within the university to talk to each other, and those of you who work in universities know that that's a very important goal to achieve, and not always a simple one. But most of all, it gets us to work with really exciting and interesting and witty and charming people like you from all around the world. So it's a great privilege. I'd also like to acknowledge some of the international visitors in particular. I know we've got a great many, but I'd like particularly to welcome Rod Eggett, one of the keynote speakers. I'd like to welcome Professor Zaidi from the Malaysian Academy of Science, and also in particular our two Japanese guests, Professor Kasuki and, I'm sorry, I've lost the other name. Professor Dada. So thank you very much for coming. Thanks very much for making this a richer symposium than it would have been if it was just a group of University of Queensland people sitting around a table talking to each other, although even that would have been a wonderful thing to have achieved. I hope that the symposium goes particularly well. I hope you make new colleagues and new friends, and that by the end of the day you'll have developed a better understanding of what we actually need to do in this broad and exciting field. So thanks very much for asking me along, and all the best for the success of the day. And please excuse me for having to rush off to open something else in a few minutes. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Lawson. We greatly appreciate the support provided by the university in various ways for such efforts. My task is, thank you. So my task now is to give you just a lay of the land for the rest of the day. We chose the format for this symposium deliberately to try and make it an intimate experience for exchange. As you'll see, it's very purposefully not a very huge gathering because we want it to be very task-oriented. And one of the tasks that is at hand is for us to try and integrate research. The Sustainable Minerals Institute is launching a new effort called Next Mine, and you'll see this large the poster of sorts which says innovation through connection. And that's the motto of this Next Mine initiative. Next Mine is basically an effort to try and integrate knowledge across various aspects of mineral research to prepare the industry for challenges of the frontier or the next generation challenges that are likely to occur. So what is the Sustainable Minerals Institute? Perhaps some of you are familiar with, but let me just give you a quick overview of the scope and breadth of the institute. Overall, we, I think, rightly claim to be the largest research institute of its kind in the world, which is focused on sustainability in the mineral sector. We're about 350 people in total, budget annually of about $55 million. We comprise 7 centers, and that is partly why this Next Mine initiative is so important, because it's an effort to try and integrate knowledge across the 7 centers. These are the 7 centers which are noted up there, and we have representatives of all of these centers present and will be present during the day in some form or another. We have the largest of the centers is the Mineral Processing Center, which is the JKMRC, and that's physically located in Indropilly, about 10 minutes drive from here. It's named after an American mineral processing professional, Julius Krushnit, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing again. And it's one which has the longest history and has a distinguished array of alumni all over the world. It's been around for a few decades. The other center, which is also has a history which is beyond SMI, is the Bryan Research Center in Geology. And we have also some UQ emeriti faculty here who have been affiliated in various permutations of the Geology Earth Sciences programs which predated the Sustainable Minerals Institute. Then the center which I direct is the Center for Social Responsibility in Mining. That's the red part of the rainbow circle there. And that's about 10, 11 years old, and the focus there has been on trying to understand linkages between social acceptance of mining and risk and various aspects of social and environmental performance of mining. We have the Mine Land Rehabilitation Center, which is the green circle there, and focuses on especially closure issues in mining, but more broadly on environmental aspects of mining as well. We have a water center, Center for Water in the Mining Industry, the blue, light blue circle. We have a center on health and safety issues as well, and one of the founding directors of that center will be facilitating the afternoon session around nuclear risk and perception. So that's the core group of centers, and then we have this newest center that has some relevance perhaps to this symposium as well, but a lot of relevance to the state of Queensland, and that's the Coal Seam Gas Center, the purple one, and that was just established last year. I would also like to note that SMI has a commercialization arm which is called JK Tech, and we have the CEO of JK Tech with us today, Dan Alexander. Thank you for coming as well, Dan. And that's the effort to commercialize technologies, research which is developed at SMI to the broader world. And JK Tech has also flourished and grown over the years, and in and of itself is, I think, quite an important force to be reckoned with. And I think it's a tribute to the innovation spirit of SMI in that way, that these technologies are being spread across. So what I'd like to do now is just quickly go through our plan for the day. If you let's see. If you'd like to follow or to tweet, to be engaged with the larger conversation, we have a hashtag as well, which is Rare Earths UQ, and we would encourage you to do that. At CSRM, especially the center I'm directing, we are trying to serve a broader public good, not just do research for our own interests or for serving industry, but to educate the public at large, and social media is a very important part of that. This whole technological setup in the last couple of days, I would like to especially thank our team who have been working on this quite assiduously. We have Kazaya here, who's also live streaming the event for people who are not able to be here, especially in Japan. And Sarah Knox, who is actually probably uploading some PowerPoint presentations to the website now. And then, of course, our coordinator, Gillian Cornish for the event, whom you probably heard from and is also busy somewhere, but usually the thanks are confined to the end, and I want to say them up front because without their help and without dealing with all this technology, we wouldn't have been able to really have such an experience. And certainly for those who can't travel to this distant part of the world, having that technology interface is particularly important, also to reduce our carbon footprint as much as we can. So in terms of the way things are going to progress today, we're going to have a morning set of keynote presentations, and we've chosen the keynote presenters quite deliberately to start a debate and conversation around rare earths. This is quite different from other events around rare earths which you may have seen. There are several rare earth conferences now which happen every year. A lot of them are industry focused, and we work a lot with industry. In fact, much of the research that is done at SMI has historically been funded by industry, but we, especially our center, the Center for Social Responsibility in Mining, is very conscious that we have to try and build bridges between industry and communities who often are not able to connect the way they want in terms of understanding the benefits and costs of resource extraction. So we play that bridge building role, and in order to do that, sometimes we have to spur controversy. So we have very deliberately chosen speakers who are going to push the envelope in various ways. You will have conversations around some of the benefits of the rare earth sector and what it can bring, but there will also be presentations, especially one presentation which is going to be critical of some of the historical legacy of rare earth mining in parts of the world. And that's very conscious. That's the way in which we want this conversation to develop. And I would urge you to give the benefit of the doubt to speakers and engage with them constructively. I have been at too many conferences with industry and other community members present where the conversation polarizes. And immediately there's a sense, oh, these people don't just understand nuclear issues, and they don't have a risk perception knowledge. And then you have others who are saying, well, these people are just beholden and sellouts to industry. And I hope that you will not set that tone. I'm saying that up front, sort of putting that on the table, because I've seen that, having been in this field for the last decade and serving on many United Nations panels and this, that, and the other, that often happens. And what you have then at the tea time is you have these little whispering circles with people who are just complaining about, oh, that person was just appalling. I can't believe they said that. And so I would hope, if you really feel someone was outrageous, go and talk to them. That's the purpose, and say, you know what, I think you may have misunderstood. Give them a benefit of the doubt. And especially because this is a very contentious issue, as you well know, especially our Malaysian delegates know all too well. It's basically galvanized an entire environmental movement across the country. We want to be conscious of engaging in a way which is really trying to resolve conflicts. And my own research actually has been on environmental conflict resolution and trying to mediate differences between groups. Science can be a very powerful tool in doing that, but not just science. There's also a role for the human connection, a role for community relations practice. And all of that has to come. There's an art and a science to this. And I think we need to be appreciative of that confluence of various disciplines, hence the innovation through connection. So in that spirit, the morning is going to lay out some of these issues up front. We will have the opening speech by Rod Eggert, who is going to unfortunately have to do it through the Skype system because his flight got delayed. But thanks to technology again and firefighting from our wonderful team here, that we will still have him with us. We've already tested the connections and all, and he will be able to engage. He will arrive tomorrow morning in Brisbane, and we will still be having conversations with him. So Then after Rod, we're going to have a presentation by Dr. Zaidi from the Malaysian Academy of Sciences. And he's going to present perspectives, and I'll introduce them specifically before their presentations, but I just want to give you a general outline of the day. He'll present perspectives around the experiences in Kuantan with the Linus facility, and more broadly Malaysia's interests in developing the rare earth sector in a broader context as well. We'll have then morning tea at 11. So 45 minutes or so of presentation by the first keynote, then, well, we'll probably have half an hour presentation, 15 minutes for Q&A, and the same with Dr. Zaidi. Then we have morning tea. Then we will have Dr. Wada present at 11:30. We'll have about half an hour for morning tea. 11:30 he'll present, and his presentation will be about some of the negative legacies of rare earth mining from his experiences in working and researching some of the activity of Japanese companies. And then we will have a presentation by Dr. Nansai specifically on some of the technical issues around rare earths, material cycles and waste management research. I'd like to especially acknowledge that we have Japanese participation quite prominently in this conference, and especially with the keynotes, because we are also engaged in a broader effort with Japanese universities. One of the live streaming listeners is Ben McLennan, who is an associate professor at Kyoto University in Japan, and he is working with us on this research because Japanese companies are among the major users of rare earth materials. They're also major manufacturers of rare earth magnets, and so their participation is very important. You may be also wondering in terms of Chinese participation. Well, we are very engaged with Chinese participation. We unfortunately weren't able to have them here in person. We have a couple of Chinese researchers who are based in Australia who are attending, but I have myself been and visited with the Chinese Academy of Sciences several times, and we are quite engaged with them. So you shouldn't feel as though, especially since there's such a dominance of rare earth mining in China, that China is somehow absent. They are not. They are very much part of this effort, and in fact, Professor Shinlei from the Chinese Academy of Sciences was very keen to come, but he had to go to Nairobi this week because of the Chinese Academy of Sciences activities in Africa. They're trying to open some research centers in Africa, which, as I'm sure you'll appreciate, is very pressing and important as well. So we are very much engaged with them, and we will continue to have them as part of the conversation as the Rare Earths Research Consortium develops. The Japanese collaboration at another level is important because we have just also applied for an Australia-Japan Foundation grant to do further research and activity in Japan around this with Japanese universities. And regardless of the outcome of that grant, we will be able to invest some resources from within the university for further work in Japan. I would also like to especially acknowledge the help offered by the Japanese consulate in Brisbane, and we have the representative for the extractive industries from the consulate with us today. We also have the Queensland government representative in Tokyo, who has been instrumental in helping us. I believe he or some of his team are also going to be participating through live stream and at least listening to parts of the morning event. And I would also especially like to, in that context, thank the Queensland government because the Queensland government has really tried to open doors for the university in ways which I have not seen in most other states in the United States, where I've had the pleasure of visiting all 50 states in America and worked in several of them, and there isn't the same level of engagement in American states that I see in Australian states, especially Queensland, to help universities connect with industry in the same way. So special thanks to the Queensland government. We have several representatives from the government here with us as well, and because of their international outreach also, that's helped us connect with many companies as well. Another very important partner for us is CSIRO, and we have some important scholars and team leaders from CSIRO with us, Anna Littleboy and Kiran Moffat. Anna will also be leading one of the afternoon groups. CSIRO has provided some financial support also for this symposium, and we're also involved with some further research with them. Of course, there was a partnership many of you may be familiar with on the Mineral Futures Cluster with CSIRO that the University of Queensland was leading with the UTS Sydney. That was concluded recently. The launch event was in Sydney last week. The reports are all available online. I would urge you to find them and download them and use them for your own research and teaching. And it is quite likely that we will be collaborating with them on another grant, which is related to recycling issues, and it's part of what they call the Wealth from Waste Cluster. Now, in terms of the way in which we're going to have the afternoon, the morning presentation is fairly sort of typical, 30 minutes, 15 response time, and so on. Afternoon is going to be workshopping. And we've got 4 groups. You already received a request to join some of the groups. And if you haven't, please try to, during morning tea or during the lunch time, find the group that you would want to join. And those 4 groups are chosen specifically to encourage interaction in new research streams. The goal of this symposium ultimately is to do a gap analysis of what is the research that is missing and needs to be undertaken. And that is why the establishment of a rare earths research consortium is so important, because this is an area and a sector where a lot of people are getting involved and they don't quite know what others are doing and what is missing. We have scholars who have worked on this sector for many years, and now their research is being resurrected in some way to say, well, it's becoming more important, so we should be looking more into it. The investment from the US Department of Energy around the Critical Minerals Institute, several of these other efforts are a reflection of that. And so what I would urge you to do is consider which of those 4 themes, which are listed in your packet, would be where you can contribute most, because those will be done in workshop format. We also have specific questions which our core team worked on that we think should be addressed, possibly to find out what kind of research is needed. So it won't be open-ended, it'll be very particular. And I'd like to especially commend our postdoctoral fellow Artem Golev, who helped to develop that whole scheme. He's funded for the next year to continue to work on this project, and he's hopefully going to continue beyond that too, but definitely for the next year he's devoting his energies on rare earths. So he's going to be our point person in terms of research in this sector, and so please try to connect with him during the breaks and so on. The questions were chosen also through the whole core group of our team, and some of them are listed. I won't go through each name, but especially I should also mention Dr. Glenn Corder, who was also Artem's doctoral supervisor when he did his doctorate here. And he will be supervising the coordination of a lot of this work. And so it's very important for us to try and use that 90 minutes of time in the afternoon sessions to come up with a gap analysis that prioritizes areas for research that are most important. And the moderators for each of those sessions have been chosen and briefed by our team. We will also have one person from our core team to help with the moderation as needed. We'll have a scribe as well, so that you don't have to worry about the note-taking, and all that will be done professionally, and then it will be available afterwards online, and the conversation can continue. So part of that is going to be done through that prioritization method, where you can come up with, through discussion, different series of key research topics, and then you put dots on them. And I know some people find that really hokey and not quite useful, but we've found that in this context of the gap analysis, it's actually quite useful for our purposes, and it stimulates conversation down the road as well about why people chose some topics as being more important. It may be that afterwards, on reflection and reading, we may decide we go with other kinds of topics, but this event is really meant to develop that research agenda. So having that prioritization exercise is going to be quite useful for us. After that period of deliberation in the afternoon in your small working groups, we'll reconvene, and during that period, each group will share their findings, and then we'll have an opportunity to make connections between those 4 groups as well. All right. I would really urge you to stay for the whole day as much as you can. I know some people, of course, we have executives and all who have other commitments, but you will, there's a tendency, it's again one of those, having been in academia for a while now, I've found that with events, there's a tendency that somehow if you have some, big speakers there, you are going to get more out of it. But if you actually look at the psychology of learning, you get far more out of those workshopping experiences. So it's very important to not trivialize those by any means. And we've chosen the moderators. We have moderators who have come from a long distance. We have, like Sebastian Penrose, who has come from Washington, from George Washington University, who will be moderating one of the sessions. They will contribute in that context as well. And so please, I would urge you to be involved and engaged in that afternoon segment, and don't think that that's somehow not going to be as useful. We'll make sure that it is useful for you, and certainly that's where your participation, the value of your knowledge, is going to be so vital. There were a few scholars who also contacted us to try and find a spot to speak, and unfortunately, because of the format, we couldn't. Very eminent scholars, and who have had a long experience in this sector, but just because it came towards the end of the program development, we couldn't accommodate them. They will be in there and will graciously be participating as well. So that afternoon session, suffice it to say, is going to be very important. We will not record that afternoon session. The morning session is being live streamed, except for the last presentation, which we were by Professor Nansai, which we decided not to, because he said that it's new data and he's not comfortable yet presenting it on a live stream setting. But the other 3 are going to be recorded and available online for viewing later as well, so you can share that with colleagues. The afternoon we won't be recording, but we will have the scribes, so we're not video recording, but we will have the summaries available. And that's partly for logistics, that it's a little bit difficult to record in those kind of group sessions. But the detailed descriptions and so on, and the conversation map will be available afterwards.